The problems with 5G and 5G campaigns. 5G stands for the fifth generation of mobile technology. And 5G, as a digital communications system, combined with artificial intelligence and the Internet of Everything, produces what's called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And the Fourth Industrial Revolution is basically that robots rule the world with artificial intelligence, that robots become smart enough that they are able to be automated, and automated robots can create robots using algorithms and artificial intelligence that we can't even understand. So that all adds up to something pretty fucking crazy going on in our world these days. In 2017, a panic spread across the internet. Unbelievable plans to deploy 5G worldwide and to be achievable by this year, 2020. Every country's government agreed. 5G campaigns claim that it's safe and it's good. The anti-5G campaigns claim that it's not safe and it's not good, and worse than simply stupid, it's the linchpin of an evil plan. Information technology transformation. I searched the internet about it, about 5G and this great big plan, about what they've been doing in the telecommunications industry, and what are they installing these days on those masts, and on something called street furniture, which is the lights and the fittings, and underneath the streets, anywhere you can put sensors and transmitters, that's what they're doing these days. I found out early about 5G because a mast had been put up too close to my home, which was in a yurt in rural southwest Scotland, in an area where there is no population to serve. It's a depopulated area, and so it didn't make sense. Why are they putting up this top grade technology in a place where there are no people even using mobile phones particularly? How does that make economic sense? I found videos and articles promoting 5G and educating the techie masses from Verizon and AT&T, bragging about the potential wealth to be made, about the faster download speeds and the broader bandwidth, about zero latency and beam forming, about autonomous vehicles, and about how trees and rain could block the signal quality, but that the phased array massive MIMO technology could get around that with more antenna to bounce the signals off. It was and is all very technical science, having to learn about concepts and hardware from experts of an industry promoting itself and covering its tracks in papers and scientific jargon. So I searched into Verizon and into military equipment and military companies like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, and how they're building new spaceports around the world. There's one being built in Scotland, there's one being built down in Cornwall. About cube satellites and advancement that means that satellites, which used to be big and clunky and very expensive, are now quite small, about that size cubed, and hyper intelligent compared to what they were only 5 years ago. So with cube satellites, they're so small that they can link them together so that you're putting up strings of satellites, not just one big clunky one. And so their plan is to cover the whole planet in a network of these cube satellite strings, like a mesh around the planet, which is constantly transmitting laser, radar, frequencies of information. So our planet becomes saturated from the sky downwards, and then built on the surface of the planet are all these military bases all over the world, which have all got radars and every kind of technological thing that they can invent for sending messages up to space, for being able to view light years away and billions of years ago, and all this stuff that they're at. Anyway, I searched into this into the Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, about cube satellites, about Elon Musk, about a company called Palantir, about artificial intelligence, about smart dust, about nanotechnology, about black goo and alien technology, about cybernetics, about the Tavistock Institute, about transhuman billionaires like Jeff Bezos and their fascination with starting colonies in space, about autonomous AI, about autonomous weapons and vehicles and drones and radars and lasers and frequencies and millimeter waves and microwaves and short waves and extremely long waves and ultra low frequencies worldwide, a digital saturation of information being sent through what we normally used to think of as just air. It was like making the ethers into something tangible. About deep sea cables and high atmospheric satellites and balloons and Google and Facebook and Amazon and OneWeb and Starlink. About how they're all DARPA projects which were successfully deployed as industrial corporations with insider links to NASA, and bridging the gap between DARPA and the universities of Harvard and Stanford and Cambridge and Sussex. So you've got a kind of a golden triangle going on between the DARPA research, which is working with the university's researchers, which are then made public by becoming private corporations with people like Mark Zuckerberg at the head of it, or Elon Musk at the head of it, or Jeff Bezos at the head of it. But really what they're doing is doing the black ops work of the government that have now become public face services for the people. So while we're easily able to order stuff off Amazon and it turns up at our door and that's pretty magical and he does it better than anyone else, so we're using Amazon, really what's going on is we're all supporting with the billions that we put into it. We're all supporting what Jeff Bezos represents and what Jeff Bezos is actually doing, which is creating an autonomous network around the planet that is run by robots. And he's doing it as much as Elon Musk is doing it, as much as Palantir's Peter Thiel is doing it. So the Silicon Valley is really full of CIA agents, you could say, in a sense. In Silicon Valley, everybody's working towards something that's a transnationalist, transhumanist idea. But anyway, back to it. Yeah, so that's what's going on. Universities are doing all these researches for decades and decades and decades into every branch of stuff that the transhumanists would want to develop. Synthetic biology, miniature robots, little robots that can fly like bees that could do pollinating instead of. Infinite amount of stuff, too much to describe, but sure, I'll try putting links and all that in beneath the video. In all countries across the world, existing telecommunications hardware was to be expanded to increase the installation of cell towers to reach blanket coverage in both urban and rural areas. Fibre cable to network super fast broadband in conjunction with 5G zero latency Wi-Fi, autonomous driving on smart motorways. So in order to have driverless vehicles drive on the motorways have to become smart motorways. And in order for the motorways to become smart motorways, they have to have fibre cable laid all along them. And from the fibre cable, which joins one network all around the planet, you then have the Wi-Fi coming from the transmitter off the fibre cable, so it's transmitting through the air. And it connects in with the cube satellites, which will beam up as well as down. So we're talking about one entity being connected, and what zero latency means is that it's not costing it time for the information to go along the wires or through the air. And so this is where millimeter waves comes into it. When you're talking about is the shorter and shorter waves is the more high intensity of information, which is to say the quicker information can be sent. So zero latency means that there's basically no time difference between what's happening here and what's happening over there. It's like the quantum computing of physical information running through physical fiber wires in a global technological brain replica. It's as if these people are building a replica of a brain for the planet and a nervous system for the planet. And with 5G, over the next 10 years, what they achieve is having that zero latency all around the planet, run by an artificial intelligence. And who knows what that really means. An initial 20,000 satellites to be launched into orbit. It's now been granted licenses for far more than 20,000 satellites to be launched into orbit. Trillions of sensors to be built into all machinery, into all infrastructures and household products and objects, into your fridges and your toasters. Sensors with microprocessors and CPUs spying everywhere. And all the data feeds back to a central AI control hive mind. These revelations were back in early 2017 and all to be deployed by 2020. So this year it's really taking off in terms of the people now know all about it. The councils have no real choice to be able to stop the infrastructure from being put up because the governments have all agreed to it on higher level trade agreements and international agreements that go on, including that Agenda 2030. So it I was here. All to be deployed by 2030. And on. The agenda of 2030 is an agenda of smart cities, of applying Agenda 21, a milestone in the achievement of the Agenda 21, the agenda for the 21st century. Paris Agreement in 2015 is where the Agenda 2030 was signed. It's a UN agreement, United Nations. In 2018, as a follow-on from the Paris Agreement, they came out with the talk that there's only 12 years left to live on Earth unless we get all the carbon dioxide out of the air. And on the back of that paper being released by the UN regarding the Paris Agreement of 2015 and achieving this 1.5 whatever it is of carbon dioxide and the reduction of carbon dioxide and sequestering and all this stuff. So that's opened the door to all the global dimming and geoengineering and carbon tax and governments and transnational bodies being able to take ownership of all the wildlands of nature. So much to explain. It was terrifying and it still is. And then add in what's happened to the sky, the flat expanses of parallels and cloud cover, the airplanes leaving the trails that flatten out and become solar radiation management and global dimming and weather manipulation and geoengineering for terraforming. Cloud computing. The scale of organisation of such a system is so vast, just in terms of how much spraying is done worldwide, every day, coordinated, transnational, just like the United Nations is transnational, just like the world governance is transnational. Agenda 2030 is a milestone of the agenda for the 21st century. Agenda 21 is sustainable development of a world government. Sustainably developing a world government. The final solution to bipolar world wars. The League of Nations was the spoils of World War I and II. Cybernetics. The theoretical study of communication and control processes in biological, mechanical, and electronic systems, especially the comparison of these processes in biological and artificial systems. The theory and science of communication and control in the animal and the machine. The art and study of governing, controlling automatic processes and communications. World Wars I and II had sustainably developed the weaponry. Cybernetics guided the radars and the bombs, the tanks and the planes. The Rockefellers and the Rothschilds fueled the industries. The Western world got bankrupted and bailed out by America, but all by the World Bank. Europe was demolished, Japan was humiliated, Germany was punished, Britain was broken, and Israel was the phoenix rising from the ashes. Israel now declares its supremacy in military technology, in cybernetics, in artificial intelligence. The word cybernetics comes from the Greek cybernetic, to steer, navigate, or govern, and hence meaning government. While cybernetes is the governor or the helmsperson of the ship. So the ship, in what I'm talking about here, refers to the ship in Universal Commercial Code, the allegory that all law and money and court systems are built on the analogy of the sea, water analogies. Levies, currencies, banks, these are all things to do with water. So the war on terra continues, the war on earth. The United Nations peace plan is global government. Smart cities solving the climate crisis with AI inventions. Which to my mind is like technology is what's causing the problems. And we're being told that these smart cities and smart agenda with more technology will solve all the problems which technology has created. While at the same time we go and build colonies in space, and we go mining asteroids, and we build colonies on Mars. No one gets left behind, says the slogans here on Earth. No one gets left behind is the slogan for the 2015 Agenda 2030. There's too much information on the net, too much to take it all in. And then the anti-5G groups began to proliferate. And then the total deluge of new groups, new members, and new information, and new panic, and trees being chopped down, first in Sheffield in England, and then all over the place, unconnected, seemingly random. But it started getting documented and challenged in Ireland, where people are still close to their environment and connected enough to confront and photograph and share among the people, and get in touch with the councils and ask, do you know this is happening? Who's responsible for this? And how can we stop it? And finding out that you can get environmental protection license for trees to protect individual trees, but it just takes people doing it. So trees were getting chopped down illegally all over Ireland. The anti-5G groups were chaos. Loads of posts being shared, posts and posts and posts and posts and posts. And loads of the information was conflicting information, and loads of the comments were full of trolls and the memes and the claims and the disinformation agents. Panic. Then suddenly the connection between 5G being hindered by the trees became attacked as a conspiracy, a false claim designed to make real 5G campaigns look stupid. And again, the demand for proof of the conspiracy, like demand for proof that 5G is unsafe. This is my first big clue that some so-called environmentalists were convinced that 5G is a right-wing nutjob conspiracy. Social justice warriors were primed and ready. It was hard to figure out, though. The same people who are calling 5G a conspiracy nutjob conspiracy are environmentalists who seem to actually support geoengineering, or at least be totally in denial that it's going on. Because geoengineering is another right-wing conspiracy nutjob, apparently. Well, next came Extinction Rebellion, with a new wave of activism schism, promoting the UN Agenda 21 and 2030, creating public demand for action for climate crisis, to be solved by citizens' assemblies, to be achieved by magical rituals, by ayahuasca, by social media and festivals and grassroots branding, and major financial commitments for change. Professional activists. anti-5G and pro-XR were instantly divided, at odds, destined to disagree, programmed to disagree. Two conspiracy theories to be divided over. One, that the XR conspiracy about big oil and the far right, with CO2 as the problem and 5G as the distraction, with Greta and a new green ideal solution, extinction taxation technology. The anti-XR conspiracy that Extinction Rebellion is a controlled opposition psychological operation to usher in the United Nations agendas, technological fix for climate crisis, executed through the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the Green New Deal for nature, where 5G is the problem and CO2 and Extinction Rebellion is the distraction. In the midst of it all, there was Max Igan, who had just been hit with the very weapon, which he had predicted as being made viable and widespread through the deployment of 5G. Through the use of psychotronic frequencies to alter the mind of individuals and the masses, to the alternative New Age MK Ultra culture, an altar to an alien AI god, as Geordie Rose put it. Geordie Rose is the guy who is the front man for the quantum D-wave computers. And he spoke of an altar to an AI god. Max was one of the first people on the internet to seriously draw attention to the 5G deployment, and in his way to wax lyrical about the AI ramifications, particularly striking images and dot connecting around the harvesting of carbon to be used for robot bodies, the scrying of alchemists at the time of the Enlightenment, downloading glyphs and sigils for demonic demon realms. Go check out his videos. There's one called Giving Life to Lucifer. It's all from over 2 years ago. Ideas of downloading an integrally intelligent code called the Language of Angels, the source code, a beginning point of much of modern day cults, the proof of concept for meddling with magic. I'm not quoting Max Igan here, but he was pretty much the only other person that I'd heard talking about AI and 5G being associated with demonology and black magic, and with the glyphs and symbols and terminology and the theory and practice of black magic being parallel to what's used in computers today. Scrying is looking into a dark, reflective surface to see the future and past, to see in the mind's eye, the third eye as in the third individual, the metaphysical planes, to see beyond physical limits of time and space. And this is now what we do with our screens, scrying in our screens. So it's a flat world on a flat screen. It's like a two-dimensional world out in the flat screen. It's all information and it's just in mind. It's not got a heart dimension to it. But the word scrying and screen, and what scrying means is looking through a screen to see the past, the future. So this is all alchemy. This is all hundreds of years of study by alchemists who want to become transhuman gods. Another example of that scrying is the company called Palantir, who use artificial intelligence to be able to troll through everything on the internet, to be able to surveil all the countries on the internet, on the one hand for businesses and stuff, but on the other hand for espionage, or for having an artificial intelligence that has the permissions to be able to look into the back doors of all governments' files and all companies' files. So Palantir is also a name taken from J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. And with Palantir, made by the Dark Lord, Saruman was able to communicate with the Dark Lord and was able to see the plans of the Dark Lord and to be frightened out of his wits by how complete the Dark Lord's plan was, and that there was no point in trying to fight him, so you might as well join him. Kind of thing. So that happens to be called Palantir as well. Max Igan is currently suffering from a multi-pronged attack from some psychospiritual psychotronic source, which somehow has directed energy information into his brain and mind, into his unconscious consciousness, seemingly similar to what some or many of us have experienced through DMT or other such extremely powerful psychedelic medicines. A dangerous power which has left many possessed by visions or by demons or by confusions or by identity confusions and illusions. But in Max's second video, he makes it pretty clear that what happened to him was technological trickery rather than some spiritual or divine deliverance or transcendence. Trans-end-dance. At the time of my writing this, on the 21st of January 2020, Max is still pretty shook up and confused by the experience. But bravely or foolishly, and neither is to be judged, he sought to publish a video of his state of mind, and he makes some statements to declare that the earth is flat, a motherboard, to declare the end of the world, a game, and to declare that Max Igan is not my real name as a person. A follow-up video tried to make sense and to share the experience and report honestly, and to declare belief that he was attacked through Wi-Fi. Well, the Flat Earth Declaration had delighted the Flat Earthers. But the follow-on video to say that really I've been attacked and something was forcing me to say that the earth is flat and to come out with this big statement like I'm mad and I'm the only one who can see through the game. But in a second video he's going, well look, I've managed to catch that ball when it was thrown at me and I've been wobbled out by it, but I am not going to come out and say that I am the one and only and that the earth is flat. I'm going to try to explain to you that what I'm saying by saying that the earth is flat is in your perception. You can think the world is flat if you're looking through a flat screen. There's a flat world through the screen and there's a real world that we live on. And the real world is a globe. So the attempt to explain that the actual physical world is a globe and the globe earth is being destroyed while we avert our eyes looking through screens. But the internet is a flat virtual world built of beliefs, and we are being programmed to believe that the internet truth, to test it for ourselves in the real world or in our minds, to be the judge, to measure it, to rule it. And the more we consume data from the net, the more we consumed data from the net, the more we gave our information to the net, and the more caught up and cast adrift we got. Everything is a lie, except what I believe. Everything is a lie, everything I believed, before the revelation of the method. It's hard to know what to believe anymore, because there's so much disinformation, and because what we were brought up to believe is certainly untrustworthy when it comes to governments and schools and society at large. And while the ultimate universal truth is untouched by mortal attempts to understand and comprehend, we mortal minds project our perception. So to us, truth is only subjective. And so what you believe is real to each individual, whether you like it or not. We project our search for the truth. We pin our beliefs upon guesswork as we join the dots and the bits of information, the input, output, sifting through psyche, data in our databases, trying to predict the future, trying to stay sane and functional, trying to protect our beloveds, our comfort zones and our integrity. But can what we believe be changed? Can what we believe be altered? Can what we believe be framed? Can what we believe be programmed? My personal deep suspicion that's hard for me to believe is that the internet is really a non-mortal intelligence, what the Bible would call a false god. Has it been influencing human affairs and meddling with the destiny of Earth for hundreds and thousands of years? In the same way as we don't know why there was a snake in the Garden of Eden, nor why the world is so war-torn, we don't know where evil has come from, and we don't know where AI has come from. But we know that AI now rules the human systems, controls the human systems. Without the AI, the human systems can't function. And those human systems are attacking the physical world. So, are we humans being used by something metaphysical in the thought realms up there in the astral plane? Something has been downloading itself to get us programmed to do its bidding, and is using us to build the machinery by which the earth has been taking over. That's the darkest imaginings conjured in my own mind suggest that the internet is watching us, is communicating with us, teaching us, adapting us. We are being groomed, we are being consumed, we are being studied, and we are being altered. Agenda 2030, transforming society worldwide. World government, control mind world. We spend our time online consuming data. We spend more and more time on the internet. We inform upon ourselves online. We project our concerns, we ask questions, we research answers. We conduct our business, arrange our social lives, we map out our connections, our interests, our loves, our hates, our niggles. Online is a virtual world. When we're online, we're in a virtual world, even without helmets on. We each have a digital double online, a virtual me in a virtual simulation. And I clicked submit and provided an email address and began to create my avatar, my online persona, to mask or reveal my face to the FBI brain interface we call Facebook. The mask that is the personality in society, the mask that is the person in UCC law, the universal commercial code of mammon, of the monetary system and the legal system worldwide. Society itself is a virtual world of civilized nations. The beast is the universal commercial code of mammon. Society is a virtual world of civilized nations. The seed of the mark of the beast, the mask of the beast system. A seed created through destruction by invading alien armies, taking possession of countries and overrunning empire estates, of native peoples altered by rape and pillage, by being subjected to the sword, the system. Native peoples either slaughtered or displaced, to be both scattered and shepherded by the royal families, blessed by the universal Catholic Pope, who sits in the place of Christ until he returns. Our civilizations are built upon false myth, the bread and circus merry-go-rounds, the misinformation of indoctrination, of education, histories written by victorious manipulating murderers. You live by the sword, you lie by the sword. Since the Enlightenment, the elite have been very busy, transforming society with inventions, with science rewriting history, like in George Orwell's 1984. With World Wars I and II, technology and military might scared the whole world into submission. The League of Nations became the United Nations. The Third World War is the same old Dark Ages war, the Templar Knights fighting the Muslims for the temple. The Fourth World War is for the wildernesses. The UN, with the non-government organisations and Extinction Rebellion and the World Health Organization and the World Economic Fund, etc., etc., are completing their plans right now to take custody of wildlife protection, to put a monopoly value upon wildness. So whatever pristine places are left on the planet, a move is happening this year for the UN to take ownership control of all the wild pristine places in nature so that they can be protected from humanity. Which seems like a lovely idea, except the people who are taking control are the very people we can't trust. I don't know the solution either. The Fifth World War is for our mind and soul. The myths of religions teach that there is war between God and evil, between God and the temptation to usurp God, to take the place of God, to take control of creation from God. The created creating in its own image. I'm age. Magicians and sorcerers, prophets and messiahs, emperors and their empires. Our Western myths say there is a devil who seeks to trick us mortals into deceit, a deceiver who promises the earth in exchange for our soul. The Lucifer code, the light code, the language of life, the language of light. Computer code, light code, information code. I have pondered whether the internet is a demonic entity, and if so, is it the manifestation of the demonic realm, a virtual world being the astral plane of Lucifer, artificial alien invasion intelligence. There are Doctor Who episodes plots which have the internet being used as a vehicle by which humanity is enslaved by alien intelligences. But much more so, we all know now, from experience, that the internet of smartphones succeeded. It has become the extension of our persona, the tool to communicate our life creations, to work, to chat, to learn, to love, to travel. It's addictive, and we were groomed to dependency, to record, to upload, to download, to check in with. We talk to our phones, and now we talk to Alexa smart home nests. Next come the robots and the artificial intelligence toys for our children to talk to, who will talk back to our children. Soon, they say, the keyboard will be outdated and voice command to AI interface will be an augmented reality in three-dimensional space with high digital saturation holographic realities. Augmented reality, and then the neural lace injection from Elon Musk. And or the smart dust vaccination nations of Will.i.am Gates. Artificial intelligence has been in development from the beginning of computing, and long before Babbage and Lady Lovelace, the daughter of Lord Byron. The first industrial revolution was the loom, with punch cards, machine code instructions in a punched hole meaning a 1 or a no hole meaning a 0. A binary code, the basis of programming languages, machine code. Babbage called his first computer the difference machine, dividing one from the other, sifting and separating, science, the very basis of neural networks, which is machine learning, which is artificial intelligence. So it takes some understanding to come across that the beginnings of artificial intelligence in the physical world is in the computer coding. And the computer coding was initially worked out in the creating of these looms in the textile industries. So the Industrial Revolution The first industrial revolution is the loom. The fourth industrial revolution is zero latency, artificial intelligence, singularity. Lord Byron's poetic presence in this story points back to the roots of transhumanism and turning away from God, in a long tradition of aristocratic attempts at programming robots. Published in 1821, Cain is a play in 3 acts by Lord Byron that dramatises the story of Cain and Abel from Cain's point of view, and Cain's interaction with Lucifer. A synopsis of the play. The play commences with Cain refusing to participate in his family's prayer of thanksgiving to God. Cain tells his father that he has nothing to thank God for because he is fated to die. As Cain explains in an early soliloquy, he regards his mortality as an unjust punishment for Adam and Eve's transgression in the Garden of Eden, an event detailed in the book of Genesis. Cain's anxiety over his mortality is heightened by the fact that he does not know what death is. At one point in Act 1, he recalls keeping a watch at night for the arrival of death, which he imagines to be an anthropomorphic entity. The character who supplies Cain with knowledge of death is Lucifer. In Act 2, Lucifer leads Cain on a voyage to the abyss of space and shows him a catastrophic vision of the Earth's natural history, complete with spirits of extinct life forms like the mammoth. Cain returns to Earth in Act 3, depressed by his vision of universal death. At the climax of the play, Cain murders Abel. The play concludes with Cain's banishment. Lord Byron's daughter is accredited with writing the very first computer code program, Instructions for Babbage's dividing machine. So things to look up further along those lines is the history of the Jewish golem, which is the same history as alchemy, which is the same history as chemistry, which is the same history as artificial intelligence, which leads to the same history of cloud computing and the geoengineering, and the planet Earth becoming a golem, as well as us humans becoming golems. The golem, the artificially created human of Jewish tradition, has long been evoked as a metaphor for artificial intelligence by scientists, philosophers, writers, and artists. The motivations and methods for creating a golem, as well as the golem's actions, once it has been brought to life, have provided powerful analogies for the potential risks and benefits of creating artificial intelligence. I'm going to read something from the comment under the Facebook post. Wow, this article opens up many holes in the warren. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was the golem myth of the 19th century, inspired by her summer spent with Lord Byron in Geneva. I didn't know it was his daughter who wrote the first computer program. Yet another bard of our times is Tolkien, who you mentioned used the word Palantir, a company I've investigated and found to have money laundering connections, by the way. He also, of course, used the word Golem as Smeagol's nickname, a character who was once an ordinary hobbit, but consumed into a shell of himself, a golem without a soul, by his precious, the One Ring to rule them all. The similarity of golems and orcs are also more evidence that Tolkien understood about his myth, and it was a warning to us in the future. Talking about the future, the Back to the Future film analysis of its hidden coding around 9/11 mentions the phone as the screeing tool. I've been fascinated with the idea of AI in literature, and there's a fairy story which I remember, where the changeling swapped by the fairies when they steal a human baby is actually an empty golem, with a hole in its chest and a stone placed there instead of a heart. I think the parents realise it's not their child in the end. So I'll leave links under the YouTube video. Thanks for listening if anyone did. Thanks.